Hello and welcome back to Spec. Today we'll be making an Ork base using the simple base for October. Get your usuals, cinnamon, glue and grouting. Make sure you got your paints ready and paint brushes and some sand. Make sure you stick to kind of metal rusted dirt colours. Next, if you actually have a bits box or tub where you keep little spares and bits in, don't be afraid to use it. Get those involved and select what you want to put on your base. Now look for textures on things, like this yoga mat's a good example. It's got two textures on two sides, you see there, but just don't be afraid to try something new. Add on what you need. The main thing you will need is some card, and what we're going to do with this is we're going to cut this down into some triangular like shapes, because orcs like speed, fighting and triangular shapes apparently. I don't know much about that as I'm not an orc player. But anyway, so just cut these down, and what we're going to do is be sticking these to the base, but just make a few different sizes, different shapes, different angles, but mainly triangles. That's the best way to get that pointy effect. You know, circles don't work so well. Right, once you've got those done, put them to the side. You know where you'll find them. You could easily lose them or just drop them. Now if you do have any other bits that you want to use, like these twisty ties that are for the freezer bags, I tend to find they're really good for like corrugated iron or corrugated kind of like steel, whichever one it is. Just colours black and silver and it gives it a nice look. We have some straws there, but that flexi area is the area you can use. As I said before, just pick what you want off of anything. It should be fine. But card is the key. Now any cards can be used. Cereal box won't be used. I'm using a Fisherman's Friends box, either way. Now when it comes to the base, cover it with a grouting. Let it dry a little bit. It doesn't matter that it has that line in the middle, because we're just going to cover that totally in sand and that will be hidden. I know it's really obvious there, but no issue. Cover it in sand and leave it for a while. And once that's been done, once it's dry, we're just going to add some colour to this, and we just do that by adding a bit of cinnamon. Don't forget to clean off the base, otherwise it just gets a bit messy. It doesn't look too good. But add on your cinnamon there, and that kind of looks like rusted earth effect when it comes into connection to this base. Okay, so I mentioned this corrugated kind of look that I wanted iron. Just take off a few of these, work out where you want them, and stick them on the base. Now, I spent a bit of time fiddling around with what I wanted and where, because I didn't want the base to be dominated too much by these shapes, but I also wanted to have a nice focus for the model. So I tried to get in a bit of variation there, different bits and pieces, kind of like a scrap yard. So if you do want to create even scrap bases and scrap pile bases, you know, this is another way of doing it as well. So just trim that down, put it on there. I didn't use the whole thing. Otherwise it just, you know, it's just too big for that base due to its size. And then just play around until you're happy. Now one reminder I would say about the bases, I've had lots of wonderful pictures and I've seen lots of work and they look great. So please continue to send them in. That's fantastic. Right, once these are glued down, kind of colour them black. And once it's all black, this is when we can start adding some colour. So you can see there the detail. It doesn't look like very much, but already you can see those edges coming through. It's kind of got interesting effects. So we don't want to just splodge on the brown. We kind of want to pick out areas of mudding, pooling, etc. So just take your time. Have a little look around if you've got any reference pictures. I use one or two. Just get a good idea of where this would all kind of collect. So where water would naturally collect is the pooling areas, and that's where the mud would be, where the rains kind of wash the metal clean. And in areas where it's going to start pooling would be at the bottom. And once it started pooling, once it starts to dry, the areas around there will have like an oxidizing rust effect, and that looks really good. So just put that on there. The brush I'm using is just a basic plain brush, and I'm literally just scratching that on there, straight from the container, straight on there. So it will take a little while to dry. And you know, don't be afraid to do that. As I said, there's no wrong way of doing this. Now we'll move on to the orange. Now this is where I kind of put some paint on the brush, dry out a little bit, and just pat it on. I'm using the bristles to have like a spread effect rather than just kind of like a thick painted effect, so there's space in between. Now you could do this as intense as you want. If you're doing this more like a sandy coloured base and you want to keep it kind of sand coloured rather than the brown, then maybe add a little bit of yellow to this to make it like a little bit lighter. If there's a copper base and you're going with a copper colour at the end of it, just to add a bit of like the green to colour, like a luminous green for the oxidization, or I think it's called like something like patina, I can't remember. Anyway, once that's been added, grab the silver, and what you're going to do is just scratch this onto the edges. Make sure your brush is clean and dry, okay, otherwise this won't work. And just scratch this onto the edges, and these are the areas where, you know, the metal's very abrasive, or it's been kind of like stripped clean by erosion, or you know, it's just scrap. You can use a sponge for this effect as well, I found quite handy, and try and sponge it into the areas of rust so that looks like the clean areas that hasn't kind of like oxidized yet, and that looks really nice. As you can see there, it's really shiny. But don't forget, try and highlight those edges, it makes a real big difference. Okay, so if you have a look here, right, those areas there is where you want to focus on. Just in the areas rising at the top, and work your way down and closer to where the rusting effect is, just leave that alone. You can. So you can see there. Now the next thing I want to do, after I do this, is really think about where I want to put some colour. Now depending upon the Ork clan I'm using, that's what I'll base the colour on. And I need something that hints at the colour of the clan, but also doesn't take away from the model. So that can be tricky. But if I was going to do, say, I don't know, the Evil Sons, I think they're called, I use some red, and I just go over the areas that I need, just a little bit. Just pick out like a sheet or two of metal, not too much. Don't take it too close to the edge, just enough, alright? And that will bring through some colour, give you that variation on your base, and it does look really nice. Now don't stress too much, but don't put too much on. You know, this is about putting it in the right places to make it look good. If you do go over this with too much colour, just come back in with the silver and just bring that colour back. I think this will look really good with some like Flash Gets Yellow, which is yellow from Games Workshop. I think that will stand out quite nicely. As you can see there. Focus. Good. Right. So, again, it's really nice, very clean. And here's some photos. Now I want to say thank you very much as always. I've enjoyed our time. Please comment, like, share, subscribe if you feel to. I really appreciate the growth and what you guys have been doing. You'll find me on Instagram most times. I will be back again in a couple of days time with more building videos, and I will be speaking about kill teams on a more regular basis as I'm playing quite a lot now. So this has been Spect, and as always, PC out.